Hey, everybody, and welcome. Glad that you can join us. We have a lot to talk about over the next hour or so, and a great panel discussion talking about what's going on. This is going to be a conversation that hopefully will be very forward-thinking and not a downer. I think we've had enough downers over the past few weeks with all the pandemic and the coronavirus stuff that's going on. We have been lucky enough to assemble a group of people that are business owners themselves. They work with a lot of business owners, and we're going to have a conversation about not only how they've been, navigating this whole thing, what they've been doing to stay in business, how they've been working, how they're dealing with their employees, how they're actually getting some cash in the bank as well. But as we get into the conversation, we're going to have some thoughts about what's next, sort of beyond the pandemic. Where are we going from here? Where do we think is going to happen, and what steps are we taking to prepare our businesses? And the idea here is that for you as a business owner, hopefully you are taking these same steps so that you can prepare your business as well. So having said that, my name is Gene Marks. I am going to be the sort of the host and the moderator of this conversation. And so, I mean, I do a lot of writing. So I write every week for the Washington Times, for The Hill, for The Guardian, for the Philadelphia Inquirer, for Entrepreneur, and for Forbes magazine. So I do a lot of writing. But I am, like my three panelists, I'm a business owner as well. I run a 10-person company right outside of Philadelphia. And we do technology management consulting. We sell CRM systems, things like that. I have 10 employees. I've got about a dozen contractors, and I've got a whole bunch of headaches since this whole thing started. And I myself am trying to deal and navigate and make our way around. So I'll be talking about some of my experiences, but I also want to hear, from our panelists and discussing what their experiences are as well. So having said that, I'm going to stop the sort of the PowerPoint, and instead I'm going to bring up our panelists, which hopefully is everybody is seeing right now. I've got Jeff Siegel and Dan. Dan, how am I pronouncing your last name? Luthi? Luthi, okay, fine,
Yeah.
and Carrie Khan, and we're going to have a conversation for a bit. And before I ask you guys to introduce yourselves, and I'll go around to each of you guys individually. Just if you're watching this, please, there's a Q&A pane, a questions pane, that if you'd like to ask specific questions of any of us, any of your panelists or myself during the course of this, feel free to put them in there. I've got Kelly from Right Networks is here, and she is going to be compiling all of this information, all the questions that you have, and firing them back out at us. And by the way, also, because I can't forget to mention, we have to say a big thank you for the three sponsors of this conversation. Right Networks, managed services company that provides cloud services. Avalara, fantastic cloud sales tax applications for anybody that's selling online using Avalara, makes things a lot easier. And Bill.com, which automates back office processing, particularly accounts payable processing as well. Three great companies, three great technologies. And I hope guys are going to have a chance to ask you guys how you're using some of that stuff and other technologies in the course of this conversation. Okay, enough about me. Jeff, I'm going to start with you first. Tell us who you are and where you are and what your business does.
Great. So Jeff Siegel, I have a firm, Siegel Solutions. I'm right outside of Boston, about 8 miles north. And we small business. We have 15 employees. We do outsourced bookkeeping and accounting. We resell the QuickBooks product line, and we do a lot of QuickBooks consulting. And in the last year, we started getting into reselling ERP software.
Got it. How long have you been running the company?
Started in 2003, so good 17 years now. So.
And what did you do in a prior life before you lost your mind and started this company?
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? I can never go to work again for anyone else.
Right.
So my background, I'm a CPA, so I started in public accounting way back when, back with Coopers and Lybrand, and I spent some time with Arthur Andersen and a lot of high-tech auditing and accounting, and decided that wasn't for me and went into this world.
Got to ask you, you just said that you could never imagine going back and working for somebody else. Did you think about that at all during this coronavirus thing? I mean, a lot of people that work for big companies seems like they have more of a security blanket than a lot of small businesses. Did that ever cross your mind at all?
Not necessarily. It didn't. But then as I'm thinking about it now, I'm glad that am on my own because I have control of really what I need to do, and I built up a business where I can rely on it in times like this.
Right,
And can actually spun out another side business in the middle of this, so to help clients. So
right.
yeah, no, it's been great.
That's good. Yeah, it's funny. My dad always said, when you work for a big company, you've got, 2 weeks of security. And if you work for a small business, you've got about 2 months,
All
depending on how
right.
things go. But it is more,
I hope it's a little bit more than 2 months, but yeah.
Okay. So, he wasn't that good a business owner. So for him, it was like 2 months. Dan, how about you? What do you do? What's your company? Where are you?
Definitely, yeah. So we're located in Kaysville, Utah, which is about 20 minutes north of Salt Lake City. Luckily for us, though, we've been working virtual for a while. So I've got employees in about 8 different states right now. We have 30 employees that work for us, which is really awesome. We're really lucky to have a great team. We do outsource bookkeeping, CFO, and tax services for clients all the United States. About 35 different states that we work in right now. Firm's been around for 12 years. I've been lucky enough to be with the firm for all of my career. So I've been here for 10 years. Started out at the bottom and worked my way up, and now I'm lucky enough to be the COO of our organization.
That's great. So you're the COO, you said, the Chief Operating Officer?
Correct.
That's
Correct.
great. And 30 full-time employees, and do you have contractors and part-timers as well, I'm assuming?
30 full-time employees. We only have one contractor that works for us, and no part-time employees right now.
Fascinating. And you don't have a specific office. Everybody, I guess, works from home, correct?
Yeah, we have a small office in Kaysville for a few of us. Most of our C-suite, I guess you could say, live within 15 minutes of each other. And so we have a place that we can kind of go to and collaborate, but we haven't been there for 2 months now. So we've all
Yeah.
been working from home and kind of living up that life. So it's been a little bit different for all of us.
Yeah, listen, our setup is not dissimilar. Like we had offices until about 10 years ago. And I shut them down. I mean, mainly because 2 reasons. I mean, people weren't coming to the office,
Yeah.
and I'm a cheapskate. I mean, so I stopped paying rent, and then I don't know if you guys have found the same. Like our overhead is very low
Yeah.
because we don't have the expenses of an office, which helps. That's helped in times like these in a big way. I mean, the downside is that we're probably like the world's most dysfunctional company. Like we don't see each other, right? I mean, I don't know if do you guys even have any company outings or get-togethers?
Yeah, so we started using virtual employees, oh geez, about 7 years ago.
Okay.
We had one employee who worked for us in Pennsylvania for years, and it just kind of went back and forth. And she was part-time and full-time and part-time and full-time, and she actually ended up retiring and decided to go and enjoy the rest of her life. But we decided about 2.5 years ago to really start diving into the virtual space, and a lot of our employees that lived here in Utah wanted just to work from home. And so we started shifting over to that, giving them a little bit more flexibility. And also found Utah's a really thriving market right now for accountants. And so it's really tough to find good quality employees who don't have, who have experience. And so we were forced to actually have to dive out and find people throughout the United States. And so it's kind of forced us also to adapt our model to be a little more flexible. And we had a large 4,500 square foot office space where we had desks for everybody and units from that standpoint, and dropped it down to about 1,800 square feet just to be able to have a few offices for individuals, small kitchen, different things from that standpoint. And the sad thing is we just renewed our lease at the beginning of the year. We wish we wouldn't have done that at all at this point in time, right? I mean, it would have been nice to kind of get off on that, but it's been really cool. We don't do outings near as much as a lot of organizations do, but we do a lot of interaction on a week by week basis. And so we dive in. I mean, we were doing them daily for a long period of time, but found that those weren't meeting the necessary needs we wanted with our firm. So we switched to doing them weekly. So we have a weekly interaction. We have team meetings that are done very frequently, and one-on-ones that are interacting with our managers and our staff. And so we have a lot of really good collaboration throughout our organization and training functions that we do that help to bring everybody together.
So really what you're saying is that you guys have been practicing social distancing for years. Is that right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
That's what I thought. No impact on you whatsoever with these new rules. It's just
Not at
business.
all. Not at all. Yeah, other than we had to tell the post office to stop delivering mail to our office. That was it. So we go pick that up once in a while, and no more water delivery, I guess. That we put that on hold. So
Big tumultuous times call for tumultuous changes, right? So we
Definitely.
just have to adapt. Carrie, what about you?
Definitely.
Tell us about your business. Where are you located? Tell us about yourself.
So we're located in Florence, South Carolina. It's a pretty small, it's considered a city, but it's a small place along I-95. So people traveling from New York, New Jersey, heading down to Florida usually stop here. We're like the halfway point. We're
Okay.
not far
So like
from
a lot of restrooms, you're saying, a lot of fast food restaurants around. Is that what you're saying?
chain restaurants. It's anyway. So we're not a big place, but I've been supporting and selling QuickBooks probably since the desktop version was born. And I went out on my own and created my business 10 years ago. So we hit the 10-year mark, and I've been working from home since then. When I first started, I brought my first employee here. We made our office, and then ended up over time, she ended up doing virtual, and we've grown to a whole 4 full-time employees and 2 part-time subcontractors.
Right.
But one of the things that I've done along the way is I built a partner program to bring in QuickBooks Pro advisors under us, and that helps us sell more, and we guide them on which product to put the customers in. And that's been a lot of my focus has shifted from before my own business, is kind of teaching them what I did as a consultant on the consultant side.
Great. So all 3 of us, I mean, Jeff, your business is virtual as well, correct? Or do you actually have offices?
We do have an office, but probably 4 out of the 15 or even 3.5 go to the office on a regular basis. The rest, it's all virtual.
Yeah,
So,
it's funny because all 4 of us are virtual in a way, and we hear about the whole working from home thing. And for some people, it's like a giant change, right? I mean, Carrie, it must make you laugh sometimes when you hear about some of these people trying to get challenged with using things like, I don't know, Zoom or, GoToMeeting, right?
So, and I've been using Zoom for 5 years, so it was, I was used to it. But immediately, the first thing I did was, I like writing blogs as well. And the first thing I did, I wrote 2 blogs on it. One was how to work from, I don't have the titles exactly right, but one focus was how to work from home, because I have learned it all from, I've got a cat, and I had a daughter that lived at home. Everything that can go wrong, I was trying to teach them what to do. And I think that the most important thing that I learned the whole entire time, and I still kick myself and remind myself, is even though you're at home, pretend you're at work, take a shower, get dressed, and feel normal, because it helps us through these isolating times. And I tried to share that, and then tips and tricks, using Zoom, because we've all had those, or whatever, you've had the terrible mistakes, and
your head turning into a potato, that kind of thing, or that, right? Right.
Don't take the speaker into the bathroom. Put
mute. Don't do that. I saw that video the other day. It was oh my God, that was so embarrassing to watch. Jeff, what about you? I mean, so as looking at how everybody has had to adjust to working from home. First of all, we're talking about what's beyond this pandemic, this whole experience. We've all been doing this for a while, and we're all like, hey man, it's no big deal. Like, we've been used to. Do you, Jeff, think that this is going to have an impact on many businesses going forward?
Yeah, no, I do. I think there are a lot of businesses that probably didn't have people working from home. Well, there were, and I think they've got a taste of that. And I think a lot of these larger companies are going to start, downsizing their real offices and have people work from home. I think a lot of companies, including ourselves, and we were pretty much 98% virtual with our employees, but we're starting to think more like to be more nimble, to be a lot more, quick to, to use technology to grow our business and to manage our business. There are some tools that I started looking for when I started working from home, because I used to go into the office. That I didn't mind doing that.
Right.
But they're tools like productivity tools. Like I started using one that actually tracks my productivity, and I could actually have my employees on the same thing. And I started looking and seeing, geez, I'm only 38% productive today.
That's twice as productive as yesterday.
Yeah, exactly right.
Fantastic.
But I think in general, we're going to start using technology to kind of streamline the operations of our business and managing our business. So
yeah, I agree. I
yeah.
agree. Dan, you've been managing a remote group. I mean, so we're talking about technology here. What technologies do you guys use right now to manage the business?
Yeah, so I mean, big piece for us, of course, was Zoom. We've been using Zoom for, quite a few years as well, just like Carrie from that standpoint. And we've been pushing really hard for it because that face-to-face interaction, I think, is super crucial. Whether it's just like this chat where we're going back and forth and you can see interaction, but also for our customers, it helps our customers to see it's a real person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to have a voice and have an email and have that robotic type interaction, but seeing a face and putting a name to that helps to really create a deeper connection, which has helped a ton through our process.
I've got to interrupt you. So I have two questions for you, Dan. Very good. First of all, and this is actually for the group, and then Dan, I'm going to ask you a question on Zoom. Do you guys have an issue with Zoom, the whole security issue with Zoom? Like when you heard they were having a security issue, did any of you say, oh my God, I'm out, I'm going to change platforms? Carrie, no?
Well, I've used it for so long, and I mean, I'm not, generally it's meetings and stuff, there's not anything that they're gonna see, but
Yeah.
it didn't scare me.
And Jeff, did that?
No, because I think a lot of people didn't realize you could lock a meeting, obviously. So that they were leaving these open. In fact, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago with a group, and somebody did hack in and threw up some images, and but if you don't realize you can go hit a button and lock it, then you can be susceptible to security issues. But I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah, I find that for most people. First of all, using any cloud-based application, we all know that nothing's 100% secure. So you have to weigh the risks with the benefits. And with Zoom, yes, there's some horrible stories. I mean, there's some story of some girls' school, some middle-aged girls were in a Zoom class and somebody, hacked into that. And so clearly I recognize that. But, for the most part, I think most people are like, okay, we lock the meeting, or we learn and it's not the end of the world. Dan, with Zoom, a word of advice for you, because we're in a post-pandemic world, and I think a lot of people will be using video conferencing. Whenever I got a Zoom invite up until March, I would never video. I would always just call the number in, because I'm pacing around, I'm walking, whatever. And then since this started, I started joining in the videos, and I suddenly realized pretty much everybody's on video except for for me. So in your opinion, is that bad corporate behavior nowadays? Do you think we're going to come out of this where if you don't show up on video, that's considered to be rude?
I would say a little bit. Yeah, I think some of the things that we've done as an organization is we've also tried to create the mentality that this is how you represent you, right? When you're connecting. And so a part of our training when new employees come on is that interaction of the background that's behind you, the way you dress, the way you present is so much a part of who you are. We want to, get to know you and understand who you are and want to see the pictures behind you and kids and all that kind of stuff. But also, two, it's a professional environment. This is an opportunity for you to also set an expectation of how you're going to communicate through that process. And so we also are careful to say, hey, don't throw up, weird things behind you or have random stuff that doesn't make sense, make sure that you're not wearing your, Stone Temple Pilot shirt or whatever it is. I mean, represent like you are in a business interaction. And it creates so much credibility when they see you in that space. And I think our clients are starting to appreciate it more also because it makes them feel like this person knows what they're doing because they present like they know what they're doing as well.
Makes sense.
And so I think that's going to be a big piece. I will say this on the security note, though. One of the big things when we were vetting Zoom to try to decide if it was a good fit for us is we looked at all the processes for security and things that you can put in place. I mean, the ability to lock out meetings has been there forever. The ability to put passwords in place has been there forever. If you're going to use tools like that, you want to know those things to be able to make sure. And so we always make sure that our teams are using unique IDs. You never use a standard, one for everybody, and control that piece to make sure that nothing slips in.
It's funny because I think not, look, listen, I'm not making any judgments or defending the senior managers at Zoom, but they must be like, oh my God, guys, come on, this stuff was there all along and we're getting all this bad press. It's a little unfair, but they're doing fine. Those guys are doing fine. Carrie, obviously still on technology here, and the impact that this will have long-term on companies. You must look, you're in the world of QuickBooks. So you're dealing with a lot of businesses that are still reluctant to go online, reluctant to go to the cloud, whatever. And I'm sure you're pulling out your hair sometimes when you hear that. Do you think this experience will have an impact on that in the future?
I sure do. So the way and when I had my last, I do monthly meetings with my partners, and one of the things I said to them is, this is a time when your customer is scared. They do not, if they're happy in desktop, they can stay in desktop. Let's talk about hosting. If they're
Right.
happy in QuickBooks Online, leave them there. Just let's make it better. Instead of, it feels like pre-COVID, it was, let's push everyone to the cloud, ready or not, this is where the future's going. And now I actually feel relieved because desktop has a lot more features than QBO, and it's just it's just the way it is today. And that's going to change as, in years over time. And I feel like this is actually a relief for the customers that they're not getting bombarded with us to force them to change to suit them. So I taught the pro advisors, I said, this is the time for you to become well-versed in both products. And if you don't want to do desktop or you don't want to do QBO, we have 400 partners, find someone to partner with. And that way the pressure's off of the customer to go through the pain of conversion, and the things, the reports they thought they were used to are no longer there, or vice versa. So change is scary right now, but to add the tools, you got the QBox, the hosting, whatever, to make sure they have the budget to do so that they can have their employees work from home. And it's up to the pro advisor to line up with that and be part of their team to be able to support them. So I think in a way that, I think in a way the pressure's off on this pushing. Now,
Right.
Since we sell a lot, that means my sales have gone down, but I'm like, this is what we have to do. And so we have to pivot. Everyone's having to figure out the pivot to make it all work.
Right. I mean, Jeff, what about you? I mean, do you think that your clients are going to be moving more towards the cloud? And do you think they're going to be more open because of what's going on?
Yeah. Well, I definitely think people are going to move to the cloud, whether it's online, QuickBooks Online, like Carrie just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
or hosted. Like we talk about one of the sponsors, Right Networks. We use their platform for a lot of our clients, and it's for clients who want to stay on desktop, or they need to stay on desktop because of the features
Right.
that Carrie mentioned. But they need that remote access. So, we have it hosted. We have a couple of legacy clients that were local when we started the business that we would go on site still, unbelievably so. And we set up some, they didn't want to go, they were small clients and they didn't want to go to the cloud. So we set up some remote access, whether there was a couple of platforms we use, like a LogMeIn or a TeamViewer,
Sure.
something that if we need to get in and do some work, we can. But I think more and more companies that are kind of server-based or premise-based will be going to the cloud, whether it's.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, and it's funny because we've had a lot of clients. I mean, for a long time, I've been telling them it's not just moving to the cloud infrastructure, but even using cloud applications. I mean, the sponsor, Avalara, Bill.com, even just collaboration systems, Office, Google, Zoom. I've had such resistance from some people over the years. And now, because of all this, and they've been forced to send their employees home, I mean, the government has now forced them to do this. So now they're signing up for this stuff. And now they're like, Gene, why didn't you tell me to do this 5 years ago?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And you look at something you mentioned like Bill.com and Right Networks or even QBO. I mean, now they could have their person who typically does the payables work from home when they used to go to the office, and things could be processed remotely. There's no more manual check signing and filing, and everything can be automated. And I think a lot of companies are getting a taste of that.
Yep.
because of hopefully people like us are actually helping our clients do that. And they're going, wait a minute, like you said, why didn't I do this 5 years ago? And
Yeah.
you know,
You know what it's,
yeah,
and
yeah.
part of it is, it's funny, and like, this is not designed to be like a plug for the sponsors, but like Bill.com, Avalara, Right Networks, all of them are in the cloud space. Like Bill.com, like it automates how you're handling accounts payable, for example, so people don't have to do manual data entry. So you're saying, Jeff, like, well, why didn't they do that? People are so used to doing what they're doing. They're in the office, they're keying stuff in. They're just, it's just a pain, change is a pain. But now because they've been forced to go home, it's not very easy to get the paperwork that they need to. So more and more of them say, well, we don't have any choice. We now have to adopt something. It's the same thing with sales tax. With Avalara, if you're selling in a bunch of different states and you need to fill out paperwork, you're used to doing it on your own. Now you're like, I can't, or it's really difficult. So I guess, gun to my head, I got to sign up for Avalara now or Bill.com. And then they find out like, oh my God, this like makes things so much easier and I should have been doing this a while ago. And so, I don't know, I think the takeaway that I'm finding with my clients that this whole experience is changing their business for the future. And we're making lemons from lemonade here because it's been horrible for a lot of people. But I think that the companies that survive this, I think, will have learned a lot of lessons. Dan, have you guys been negatively impacted by coronavirus, given the nature of your business? I mean, people still need to have their books done, right? I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, we definitely have. I mean, we've had organizations when it first happened that were on the verge of, struggle. I mean, we're on the verge of closing their doors anyways from a financial standpoint, or
Yeah.
we're trying to make specific decisions within their organization. Do we stay open? Do we sell? Do we close? What do we do? We definitely had a handful of clients who right out the chute that just said, there's no way we can weather this if it lasts longer than a month. So we're out, and they
Wow.
close the doors, they fold their doors. We've had a handful of people who've definitely scaled back. We just don't have the transaction volume, so we don't need you. We still want to keep you, but we don't need the volume base. And so we've definitely seen a major, not a major, I guess you could say, but we've definitely seen a reduction with a handful of our clients based off their current needs. And so it's made us have to adapt to that.
So what have you done?
So a couple of different things that we've done, for clients who are completely at a standstill, we've had no problem freezing services for them. I mean, if there's no transactions coming to the bank account and there's minimal things happening, we can catch that up in a month or two,
Sure.
no big deal, right?
Sure.
For clients whose volume went completely down, we're setting out some contracts with them that says, hey, we're going to update you for, half rate or whatever it is, or based off of your volume for the next 2 months, and then we'll reevaluate from that standpoint.
Right.
But we're trying to be proactive in having those discussions with our clients more frequently, especially the ones who've expressed concern to us. Ones who have asked, hey, how do we work through this? What do we happen to do? And then we put them in a workflow internally that allows us to make sure that we have constant enough check-in with them to see how they're progressing and how things are moving, so that we know when to bring them back on at full service or full rate at that point in time. And so that's been the approach we've gone through.
So, that's it. So the approach that you've taken during all this is that, listen, we know this is a short-term thing. I mean, this is at some point it's going to get behind us. So we're going to do stuff now that at least retains the clients, that even if they're not paying now, we're not going to lose them. At least we're going to do our best not to lose them. So that when this thing gets behind us, we'll restart back up again, which just really makes a lot of sense. I mean, well, I think it's a long-term view.
Yeah, I think it's the same kind of tone that, Carrie was mentioning on things that they're providing to their partners and working through from that standpoint. I mean, these clients, as much as they're clients, they're also partners with us, right? I mean, Our goal is to help them to be successful beyond the next payment that they make to our firm, right? We want them to be successful for years, and hopefully they retain us through that process. And if we can be a part of that, that process that helps them to continue to grow, helps them to weather the storms, helps them to, to solve those difficult issues that are happening, well, we actually just became greatly valuable to them as a partner. Doesn't mean we're going to collect the exact same money from them. No, but it's cheaper to retain customers than it is to find new ones. We all know that. Smart. And so sometimes it means we have to give a little in order to be able to make sure that we're taken on both sides.
Carrie, what about you? How's your business going?
Well, the two things. One is we do rely a lot on product sales, and of course that's changed a bit. We've got more, hosting sales going on.
Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry, but when you say product sales, what product specifically?
QuickBooks products.
So QuickBooks, so you sell QuickBooks, you make your margin from selling that, and obviously sales for that are down, right?
Right,
In a
yeah,
recession.
obviously, because if you think about it, customer's not going to make a big decision like that. They are adding hosting or whatever, and the consulting of course, is
Sure.
up. But there's a couple things that that I'm going to keep an eye on. I don't have the data yet. So we get residuals when we sell merchant services through QuickBooks, and we get some data that will tell us who's falling off and who's growing. Because some people may, increase e-commerce and so forth. Now, if they're e-commerce sales, that's where Avalara can definitely help them. They got to be aware of their exposure. If they're selling like crazy, what if they're making face masks? I mean, I'm just not sure the data's not there yet. March just came out, and that's to me too soon. We need to see April.
Right.
And then kind of pay attention to who's falling off, and maybe they just need to talk to some people and come up with, pivot. We've had to pivot as well. To kind of capture stuff somewhere else. I just thought of something while you guys were talking. Is one of the benefits that I found was right before we were shut down, basically, we were supposed to go to a trade show, and that was canceled. And what that's doing, I think, is it's now giving owners time to think. I mean, if I was in the place where I'm like, you know what, I've been putting off, I might be exposed to all these states, and states are going to be losing money like crazy. They're going to eventually, in long term, they're going to look back and say, I need to collect revenue. I've lost out on all the stuff, and that Wayfair and all that stuff is going to come really big. So I think this is given a time for owners to say, because I'm going around my house doing projects I should have done forever.
Right.
And you can say, it's time to do it. It is time to do it. I've got the time. I'm not going to, you can actually focus, on getting some of the hard stuff done, work with the team and get it set up and automated. And then that's, more relief on you. You're not worried about those penalties and all that stuff. They help you through all, being proactive on all that. So it's a good time for people. I think e-commerce is going to explode. And so it's a good time to get that whole workflow working and eliminate a lot of manual work, which is, cost us money. I think cash flow is the number one thing right now, and then be more efficient, or, how to, without getting sucked into the depression of this, it's time to, pivot and make sure you're checking off and making sure your business is going to survive and not be hit with this.
So it's pivoting, it's reflecting, it's thinking of other product lines as well and things that you could be selling. And frankly, if you're able to, is to have a bit more of an online presence as well. I just started getting stuff delivered. I live in the city, and I usually go out and pick up my pizza now. I'm getting my Grubhub. I'm getting Caviar. These are unbelievable. I know I'm like a stupid example of that, but I think there's a lot of customers out there that are pivoting to buying online, even more so than ever before. And I think as businesses, we need to be doing that. Jeff, how about your employees? You said you've got 15 people, right? What have you been doing for them to calm their fears, to take care of them during all of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we applied for the stimulus, the PPP stimulus, and we did receive it. So we told all our employees that, don't worry, you're covered. You're full-time, hours aren't going to go down. And then we also felt that, because we weren't sure at the beginning, that's why we applied, like, are we going to lose clients? Is our receivables going to climb? Cut back like Dan? And some of that stuff has happened, but not to the degree that I thought it was. I don't know whether we're still in the middle of this, but we also picked up clients because a lot of them decided, hey, maybe I should just have this done remotely, the thing. So we're probably neutral. I'd have to go back and really look. So we also decided, like Dan, giving our clients a break, because we have these funds that could help pay for payroll, but it could also help, fund some of these clients who we don't want them to stop with us, and we'll give them a break. We'll take care of it, because in a way you're almost double dipping if you don't. You're charging them, and you're getting paid for it, and you're paying your client, your employees. So
it's funny how it's also like this ongoing debate about the whole Paycheck Protection Program, about should people take it who like need it immediately, or because they see problems coming down the line? Because the rules, as we all know, are nothing's very specific. You know what I mean? Like, how are you affected by COVID-19? And I hear arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in your case, I mean, you see business could potentially be dropping off, and you're concerned about what's going on, and you want to make sure that your employees, and that's exactly what the program is designed for, was to keep those employees on your payroll.
We put in some software, or actually a tool that actually goes into QuickBooks, and it actually analyzes our customer base and who's paying us and when. And it was interesting because right around when this started hitting, the shutdowns, we noticed the customer retention was actually dropping as new clients were climbing. And we would never get out of any report in QuickBooks. We probably all know that, but this tool did that for us. So we realized, like Dan said, we all know it's a lot cheaper to keep a client than get a new one. So, we've been spending a lot more time on client retention, because for you, when you see your revenue numbers, it's the same or climbing, you don't sometimes think like, hey, I'm relying on new customers to keep this going. And some of these tools that are out there, like the one we put in place, helped us see that.
Sure.
So we jumped on that right away. So we're really helping our current clients as much as we can. So,
Dan, did you apply for any federal help? Did you guys, for the paycheck protection or the injury loans or any of that stuff?
We applied for the PPP right as it came out. We missed the first round, so we got, and we were a little bit worried. We actually just found out today that we were approved, which is exciting from that standpoint. So if any of my employees are watching this, we got money, so we're good, right? No, I completely agree with Jeff. From that standpoint, I mean, for us, it's about trying to create that solidification, because they're impacted just as much as we are, right? I mean, they need to know they have jobs. They need to know they have somewhere to work, somewhere to consistent. To your comment before, Gene, I mean, if you work for a large organization, it's 2 weeks. Well, luckily now we got 2 months, right? I mean, we got a consistent thing that we can work towards that gives us hopefully room to get into those summer months, which we all are hoping and praying that means we're going to see a reflection of a decrease in the impact, but we don't know how long this is going to last. And so that was a part of our thought process going to this too, is we know we've seen a hit. How long do we expect this to be able to, to affect our businesses? And will we have the ability to kind of maintain through that process? And if we can help our clients and retain them over a long period of time, and this gives us some room to be able to do it, I mean, this allows us to be able to keep them in business, help us to stay in business, and we're doing what its purpose is, which is great.
Yeah, again, I think that's exactly why the Paycheck Protection Program was what it was designed for. Carrie, what about you? And I'm going to ask Jeff and Dan, I'm going to ask you guys the same question. I mean, we're going to get to questions from our viewers soon. I know we've got a bunch that have come in, but I have to ask you, Carrie, first of all, none of us know, okay? So you're clueless like the rest of us, Carrie, right? I mean, we don't know what the future is going to be, how long this is going to last, what's going to go, whatever, right? But we've got to make some bets here. We got businesses to run. What do you think is going to happen? And how are you preparing your business right now for what you think may happen? And Jeff, I'm going to ask you the same thing. And Dan, I'm going to ask you the same thing. And maybe we'll reconvene in a few months and see who was right. Go ahead, Carrie.
I think the e-commerce is going to explode. And I think it's super important for the consultants to have those tools ready to go. Because people, if this lasts and we have to work from our homes, for longer than we think, which I'm like, I already do that. I think that's what I predict is going to explode. And I think just as a consultant side of things, being prepared to put people in the right product to streamline that. I think that's my biggest prediction.
Fair enough.
I think these Zoom meetings, I hope they continue like you were talking about earlier, not being on video. I'm one of those, I love when people are on video. When they're not, I'll text them like, get on video. Like I think Dan said earlier, eye contact, I mean, that's kind of hard to do eye contact, right? But you can tell if someone's genuine. I don't know, you get more of a sense if they're lying to you. I think for sales or to get someone comfortable working with you, whatever, just works better with with being on video and not having clutter back here. I mean, I could have it over here. You don't see. I don't, but I could.
That's not clutter. That's fine.
But I think it's important to use this tool. And I think Zoom is, I'm like, buy Zoom stock. Use this tool so that so you can, continue. I think businesses will end up saving money. I'm scared about some other businesses. I'm worried about our local economy. I don't have any idea how that's going to look. I don't even want to predict it because it's scary. But I think that if people can embrace the online presence and figure it out, and like Jeff was talking about this tool on productivity, which I'm gonna figure out what that is. But I think as individuals, we also have to be willing to work from home and be honest and get our work done, whether it's reported or not. And results, maybe instead of paying people by the hour, we're like, you need to have these results. And I think it'll change the way people do business and get more done. And I think that if you can work from home and you can figure it out, I don't say everybody loves it, but I do. And if that helps you, I think it's a good thing long term.
Jeff, before I ask you what you think is going to happen and how your business is going to react, of course, the most important question is, will you ever go out to eat again?
If I'm the only one in the restaurant, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I always thought you go to the restaurants nowadays and they pack you in table to table.
Yeah.
So like you're eating and your elbow is in the person's pasta next to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, at least that's going to end for a while.
That will end, but I wonder in a year whether or whatever that it'll kind of revert back.
Well, what do you think? What do you think's going to happen? Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of what Kerry said was correct. I think a lot of people are going to try to go online, even if they're brick and mortar. So there's an opportunity for us as a company to kind of go after those clients. I think there's another opportunity for us to help our clients work virtual. Like we know how to use Zoom. We knew Calendly. Well, Calendly connects to Zoom and Teams and these Monday.com, like all these apps that we can actually become kind of like the consultants to a lot of our clients to actually put these in place. I see that as kind of an opportunity for us as companies. I also think on the flip side of that, when QBO came out or became very popular, it created a vacuum, and there was nobody that wanted to go out to help clients anymore. So Kerry and I do a lot with QuickBooks Enterprise. Well, there's no consultants out there that were doing any work to help those bigger clients in those platforms. So I think it doesn't have to always be online. I think there are a lot of companies, there's going to be a lot of work for to put in the QuickBooks Enterprise and inventory and CRM, like you mentioned, that may not 100% be online. And I think it's going to be not a lot of consultants that are going to want to do that. So I think there's a couple of ways this whole thing could go. I think we're still a couple of months before really things are going to happen, when we're not, these states are opening up and we're not sure what's going to happen when they do. So
yeah, it's scary. What do you think, Dan? Do you have a more optimistic point of view? Are we going back to work on Monday?
I definitely think that the whole dynamics of work environment is going to change pretty heavily. I've got some family and people that I know that work for large organizations, and even large, thousands of employee organizations are considering, do we go to a virtual type environment? Does it make more sense? Will we, will our savings on, not paying rent cover the cost of our expense that we're going to have to pay out for equipment, right? Because that now becomes the ebb and flow of kids spilling water on mom's keyboard while she's at home or whatever it is. And so I think there's going to be some deep evaluation on that from that standpoint. And I definitely think it's going to change the way we interact with each other. I mean, conferences, events, meals, things like that are going to be different. But I do definitely think that we're going to adapt and change that process. I mean, Disneyland has to open back up at some point in time, right? I mean, there has to be those opportunities for people to still find that joy and that experience and go out to those meals and have those moments. And whether it's the same as what it was before, I definitely don't think it's going to be the same. you're going to get a little bit more elbow room when you go to restaurants, I think, before the end of the year. But I definitely think there's going to be some adaptation that we're all going to have to get used to, and precautions we're going to have to be thinking about through that entire process.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think we're going to have it's going to be a period until, that we're just going to have to get used to until things get back to normal. I do think things will get back to normal eventually, but it's quite the learning experience. We've got about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes left of this conversation. I know people have been sending in questions. Kelly, if you're still there, I hope Kelly didn't fall asleep on us, guys. I thought this has been a very lively conversation. But Kelly, if you're there, any questions you want to throw out this way?
Yeah, of course. We have some really great ones. First question that came from Chris, asking about suggestions for how to follow up with the SBA for disaster loan assistance guarantees. 10,000. He's reached out multiple times. He's having trouble getting through. Any advice for him?
I actually have some advice. Can I take this one, guys? Do you mind if I? Because I've been writing it through a lot. So here's a little trick that I found. The SBA has field offices all around the country. So what I've been telling our clients to do is to pick an area in the country that's not as affected by coronavirus, like like Utah, for example, right? Or somewhere that's maybe not like New York. Their offices tend to be less busy. They will pick up the phone, and they're all tied into the same national database. So you can just call in and say, can you give me a status of my loan? And I've had some clients come back to me and say that actually worked. So that is my advice for you. Do you guys have anybody here have anything else to add?
I mean, your local bank, if you've gone through a local bank, we were in contact with ours for some of our clients and ourselves. And so, I mean, what this showed us is you really have to have a good relationship with your banker too. I mean, a lot of people just went, let me just go to BOA, Bank of America or something, and there's no one on the other side that they really talk to. So I think as business owners, we all need to have that person at the bank that we go to.
I can't believe you said that. It's so, because I had that conversation with 2 different people just over the past couple of days that they got PPP loans, and they both told me is because they had an in at the bank. Like when I mean they had a relationship with the manager there, or their spouse, has a friend that worked there, whatever. Some way that, and nowadays one thing that we've gotten away from is not having relationships with our bankers, and right. I think that has cost some business owners during this whole adventure. So that's good.
Well, I'll add one more prediction to that too. I predict a whole lot of lawsuits going against banks for prioritizing customers. I think you're going to see a big
don't even forget it.
I will say though, on the PPP, if you are going, those local banks, just like Jeff said, that's really where the deeper connections are going to be. I love that they've partitioned out some funds specifically for those lower cap banks and financial institutions, because that's really going to give a leg up in this process to helping people in rural areas be able to receive those funds. But I agree with you, Gene. I mean, right now, if you're going through the SBA for the EIDL grant or for the loans, if you're not getting contact, reach outside of your local state area, try to push into some lower populous pieces. I mean, there's enough information online that you can find where little impact is. And sure. Google those numbers and drive down, because that's where you're going to get faster response and more information.
Kelly, what else you got?
Yes, so we have a question here from Mel. She says she would love, from Patty. She would love to be doing more virtual and cloud-based activity, but doesn't have a very stable internet connection. And she's out of the country a bit and doesn't have many options. Any ideas on how to boost internet signal to make it stronger?
Ooh, that's a good one. I see Dan looking away like, please pick somebody up.
Jeff knows this one.
It's okay, good. I mean, we're in the cloud, and obviously different people have different types of internet connections. This is all of our lives. We've struggled with this, right? So, Carrie, I'm going to pick on you, right? I mean, what do you do to make sure that you've got the fast internet connection? What advice do you have?
So we use Spectrum Cable, and I probably called, then this is actually before the COVID stuff. I called them 100 times until I finally got it fixed. And there's something strange about what's happening right now. 3 o'clock every day, and luckily we're done by then, it gets extremely slow. So I don't know why. I bounce between that and my and doing hotspot, because the cell phones have let up on that, and you can do that unlimited. So
yeah.
But it's not been bulletproof right now because so many people, the kids are learning and then we're trying to use it. So right now it's just push for your providers to help. That's all I have.
It's good advice. Anybody else? Jeff, any thoughts?
Yeah. So if it's weak throughout your house or whatever, I mean, you could also get the mesh device like Google Mesh and the pods at I can't remember what they're called for Verizon. So you can try to strengthen the signal in your own location. But like Kerry mentioned, the hotspots, there are some, I mean, mobile hotspots, there are some that are made for business. Netgear has one called Nighthawk, I think, but like fast, even if you have a regular internet connection, you may want to have that as a backup, especially if it's spotty. Yeah, and they could tell you in your area if it's going to be good, reception at good speed. So
yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is, you get what you pay for. So it depends on what kind of, plan that you have. And if you are operating a business out of your house, it's probably something that you want to invest in and get the fastest plan possible. And sometimes hardware is something to do with it. I know people that don't get the most upgraded firmware for your router. They might have you might have a security issue on your laptop that's some malware that's slowing things down. So there's a lot of steps, hopefully those ideas will help. So, all right, Kelly, what else we got?
Yes, so we have a question from Mel. Do any of you use QuickBooks Desktop hosted in the cloud?
Does anybody not use a QuickBooks Desktop hosted in the
Our
cloud?
plug for the partner, we use Right Networks. So that's our avenue that we feel has been extremely secure for us in the process. And so definitely feel like they have a very sound, easy, simple system to use.
yeah. We use Right Networks also. We probably have 150 plus clients on it. We could log into their files. We have our own stuff on there too, so we don't even use a server in our office anymore. And we've been with them probably since 2007. And believe me, we have people come to us, can you move to our service? We may be cheaper or we think we're better, but I stay with Right Networks. I mean, they're like a tank. It doesn't go down, and it's just it's reliable. And
it's the same as the internet connection, right, Jeff? I mean, if you're going to get what you pay for through that process, I mean, we've worked with cheaper providers before we switched to Right Networks, and you always had issues. I mean, I remember my first provider that we worked with when we first started doing this. You always knew during tax season that it was going to take you 15 minutes to click through one bill as you were entering it, because it was just everybody was on the infrastructure. Right Networks doesn't have that, which is awesome. It makes it nice and consistent.
Yeah.
And their customer support rocks. It's better than anybody else's.
Kelly, one more question.
One more question. All right, we have a very popular question. I think we had 4 or 5 different people asking. Jeff, what is the tool that you are using that you mentioned that connects with QuickBooks to follow up?
You knew you were going to have to cough that up at some point.
You're talking about the one that customer retention?
Yes.
Yep.
That's
So it's called Tally Street, and I was turned on to it. I think they reached out to me to say, hey, we got this great product, check it out. And I like, because we all probably get so many people coming to us, and I tried it and I'm like, oh my God, I started getting these reports. It was like blowing me away. And like every week they actually pull out my data and send me a report, and they've got it in such a way that the retention thing scared me because I didn't realize how much I was relying on new clients. It was great that I was getting new clients, but when I saw the curve go the wrong way on the retention side, it was a little eye-opening. Tally Street is the name of it.
By the way, big takeaway there also, Jeff said, I mean, hats off to you for looking at that data and keeping your eye on it. Sometimes people don't even like to get bad news, and you need to know that stuff, Take some actions.
I sent it to some of the other people in the company and said, hey, we got to work on this. So
good.
We started kind of putting together a plan.
Very good. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to put up my PowerPoint here so we can show off, and then I'm going to come back to you guys in just a minute. So first of all, just thank you to our sponsors. The first is Right Networks. Right Networks offering a special offer right now. If you use this offer code BYND50, it is 50% off your first 3 months of QuickBooks Desktop Cloud. business cloud or accounting cloud. Right Networks managed server company that, it handles, QuickBooks Desktop and a lot of other applications as well in the cloud. So thank you, Right Networks, for doing this. Thank you, Kelly. Also, thank you to Avalara as well, offering a 3-month deal of free automation. If you are selling online anything, you are an e-commerce company, and like Carrie had been saying, we're seeing a big increase in online sales. Most people are moving in that direction. You will have sales tax headaches like you wouldn't believe, because everybody and their mother is trying to collect taxes now because of this big decision from the Supreme Court called the Wayfair decision a couple of years ago. Avalara takes away all that pain, does all your processing and paperwork for sales tax. Extremely working. And Bill.com I've been a fan of for years, guys. Mainly Bills.com I keep telling people, it's just your vendors email in their invoices to Bill.com, and then it scans this technology, uses its optical character recognition technology. It grabs the data, puts it into your system for you. There's a series of reviews you can go through. There's workflows involved, but it takes the middleman out of the action and makes the things a lot more automated, and really takes advantage of what the cloud is and all the capabilities of the cloud. So Bill.com is really good. So before I let everybody go, I do have one poll question that I did want to ask, and I'm gonna launch it now. And it's just, if please, by all means, you can go ahead and answer this question. With what your answers, I'll keep it open for just a few minutes. If there's anybody there that would like to get more information about any of our 3 sponsors, it is, that would be just great to do. And what I'll do now is I'm gonna close the poll. I'm gonna unshare my screen so we can bring back up our beautiful faces again. And I want to thank you guys. You're fantastic. Really, it's a great and a fun conversation. If anybody wants to get a hold of me directly with any questions that we've had, if you have any questions on the Paycheck Protection Program, I've been answering a lot of those. My email address is Gene, Gene @marksgroup.net, MARKSGROUP.net, and I'm happy to help in any way. But Jeff, Dan, Carrie, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks again, Avalara, Bill.com, Right Networks for sponsoring this. Hopefully everybody will navigate our way through this pandemic, and we will see you successfully on the other side. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was just us.
I guess so. It was good to meet with you, Jeff.
Yeah, good times. So good luck.
Have a good one. Same to you.
Thanks.